Hey there, this is Jonah with Gray Area. Welcome to our series Spotlight, where our mission is to build a bigger and more united house music community by sharing new and exciting artists, festivals, and event brands with you. In this interview, you'll hear from Franky Wah, a rising star in the world of melodic house and techno. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more interviews like this. Where are you based right now?
So I'm South Yorkshire in a town called Doncaster, just outside of Leeds. You might have heard of Leeds.
Yeah. Did you grow up there, or you just moved there?
Yeah. I've never moved, mate. I'm a farmer's son. We're farmers, the farming family, generation to generation. So I've grown up around here.
That's awesome, man. I saw you were like a big footballer back in the day. Like,
yeah.
What happened? You just decided DJing was the move for you, or?
Yeah, I think I've gone in and out of all sorts of stuff throughout my life. Like I did the football, obviously, and then I competed in bodybuilding at a pretty decent level. I ended up junior Mr. Britain, and I came 7th in the Mr. Universe as well.
Oh my God.
And I don't know, nothing got you strive towards these goals. Like I played against Man United, for instance, within my football. I competed on the world stage as a bodybuilder, and it didn't fill that void in your life that you need to fill, to feel like you've got a proper purpose, and music does. For me, I can compare effectively where I was at with the football, playing against Man U in a stadium is the pinnacle of being a 16-year-old at that time. It's similar to playing main stage Creamfields, how I did in 2019. And the feeling was totally different. Being on the main stage Creamfields, I thought, yes, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Yeah. Whereas the football, the bodybuilding was like, oh, no, I don't know if I'm feeling this, man.
Absolutely. It's funny that you said that. I was curious if you ever did something like that, because I saw, I was just looking at like your Instagram and everything. And yeah. I had actually, I guess it was a couple months ago now, but I had interviewed CJ of Cristoph. And and I've been familiar with you for a while, but when I saw the pictures of you two together, like those press photos you did for that track, I was like, man, like, cause he's big. And I was like, you're right up there. I was like, you're right next to him. So I was like, this guy's definitely like in the gym doing something.
He's a unit, Cristoph. And that was it. When we did the collab, we did a little Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and lots of production questions were coming in, but then it was like, there was lots like, who benches more, you or Cristoph?
Oh my God, that's really funny.
And I can answer you that question. The answer is me. I bench more than Cristoph.
You know what? I'm not surprised to hear that. I feel like it's always I'm about 6'3". Right. I don't know what that is in meters, because us Americans are idiots, but I'm terrible. I'm terrible on the bench because I have these long arms, and it's just like
you got
impossible.
a long way to push it. You got a long way to push it.
That's awesome, man. Well, I was going to ask about this later, but since you just mentioned it, the Creamfields thing, for those who are watching that don't know, you should learn about Creamfields, because I don't know if there's an electronic music festival that's any bigger in the world, and the stages are just like comically outsized. And for you, being from the UK, just can you speak to that? What was that like to play on that main stage?
I always joke about it. Like, the stage was near enough the size of the village where I come from. So you start putting that into perspective. It's like, whoa. But until you're actually stood up there in front of all those people, it's something you can't quite comprehend, and you certainly can't put it into words. And you just, I don't know, we live for that moment, don't we, as artists? And we live for those moments. And that was the first sort of, that particular week, I'd flown in from Ibiza. I'd played at High Ibiza. And it was the first sort of real feeling of like, whoa, like this is going somewhere now. Do you know, like And it's a big jump. Like, I've done years. I mean, I'll never forget my first gig. My first gig was, I had to take my own mixer. So a bit like a wedding DJ, I went in with my bags, carrying all my stuff. I was just so eager to play, and my mate helped me carry my stuff in. And in that club, there was me and there was my mate, and that was it. So, but I think that's where you learn, and that's what it's about, isn't it? It's the journey. But you go from that to something on that sort of magnitude, like Creamfields, man, it's just crazy. I mean, just looking out all those people, it blows your mind. I mean, when I posted the photo, I remember uploading it, like, captioned it something like, I've worked, an entire lifetime of work has led me to this moment. And then I didn't check it because I was so caught up in the moment. I caught up on the post later, and there's everyone from Tiesto in the comment section, like, yo, bro, you deserve this. And it's like, what? Like,
that's awesome.
It's crazy. But yeah, it's the only thing keeping me going, man. Just looking forward to those moments again. And we're not far away now. You're totally having it off in America, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's state by state here, which is, how we like to roll. But there's certain places, like, I'm in New York.
Right.
So I grew up in New York City. I actually went to university in New Orleans, but then moved back to New York. So I'm actually not in the city right now. I'm like out in the suburbs with my family, really because of what you just said. So I also work in live events. My company does like Electric Zoo in New York.
That's sick.
And I was like, we are starting on July 1st, in a major way. And so I'm like, I got to get out of the city before, like, I just can't leave again for 3 months. So I'm out here in the suburbs right now, and like the dog is barking in the background, and like somebody's mowing their lawn. But we just power through that.
You see me get up early, I shut the door. That's why I did. Dude, is he recording this? You'll be able to hear the lawnmower. I thought, I've got to shut the door.
No, it's
my dog. As for barking dogs, I've sent my dog off with my mate. I was like, take my dog, because whenever I'm doing anything important, my dog knows. He's like barking. So yeah,
that's really funny. They always know. They're so smart. But it's funny because, like, growing up in the city and living there now, it's like there's a different set of noises, but like I'm so used to it. And here,
which do you prefer?
Well, I've always lived in the city, so that's what I'm used to. Like I was born in Manhattan, and besides that time when I was in New Orleans from like age 18 to 22, I've always lived in the city. So like, an ambulance at 3 a.m., like I don't even hear that because I'm so used to it. But here it's like the birds are chirping at 6 a.m. and, I'm like, why the fuck is every morning somebody's using a power tool? And like, I don't understand.
Yeah. I hear you. Your neighbor's out trimming the hedge at 6 a.m. Like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm like, come on. And they'll do it on the weekends too. And I'm like, fam, it's Saturday. Like, let's relax. But obviously it's like it's an older community out here. So there aren't that many people my age. Man, no, it's good to be out here though. You get some fresh air and like, as you were alluding to. Yeah. So we're returning kind of on July 1st. That's when like all the big venues are reopening, and it's just going to be a full slate. I mean, we pretty much have stuff every weekend. I just wanted to jump back. You obviously were talking about Creamfields, and you're coming from Ibiza when you play that show. I'm just curious, kind of big picture. You've played a lot of stages over the years. Do you have a preference between playing like a festival, an intimate club, or more of like a big venue, kind of like a high Ibiza?
Yeah, good question. I think it's like horses for courses, really, isn't it? Like, they both have the qualities. I don't think I could, it's probably a boring answer because I don't think I could honestly choose, because what you lack in a big festival stage, like what I don't like about festivals is I'm too far away from the crowd. Like my ideal kind of setup would be I'm in the booth in the middle of the club and I've got people all around me, sweating on me, touching me, being able to grab me. That's my ideal kind of setup, people above me. So I live for those intimate sort of sets, because I think those are the ones where you can really create the magic, because you take so much, your track selection is influenced so much by body language, and you can read body language so much better being close to them. But, like festivals now, like I love doing the whole journey set. Like, for instance, I've got a set to announce soon, and it's an all night long set. And that's sort of what I got into DJing for. And you're able to create a real journey. But, take, for instance, your festival sets. No one sort of expects you to do anything other than you get an hour slot. You're going to go in and just drop bangers, aren't you? You can't create a journey in an hour. You're there to make a bit of a statement and drop bangers. And that's fun as well, but you need that balance of like playing the proper educated sets, the ones that, you just create those moments that you'll never be able to create again. And you go again and create a different moment again for another kind of set, but you'll never be able to create that same moment again. And I think that's the beauty in it. So probably my answer there has answered you really. I probably prefer the more intimate ones, but I love doing it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's what you said there is just so true. And I think it's just one of these things with electronic music that makes kind of the community and the scene so special is, whoever comes to that show, which I'm sure will do really well, where you're playing all night, it's like they're going to walk away and have a very clear understanding of who you are as an artist and as a person. And, the fact that you have the opportunity to just convey that is really special. I'm wondering, if you can just point, and maybe it's not one moment, but if there was a time in your life when you really felt like you fell in love with dance music and kind of knew that you wanted to go down that route.
There's a few moments that are sort of what's so interesting. I don't know. This is all down to the individual, but growing up, I don't know how much you personally can remember from your childhood, but I have so many. My friends think I'm mad because, like, I'm still in touch with my childhood friends, and they're like, "Wow, I can't even remember what I did last week." And you remember? I can tie certain moments to who I was with, where I was, what I was wearing when I heard that song. Like, for instance, Roger Sanchez, Another Chance. I know who I was with, where I was, and what I was wearing when I heard that record. I've just recently done a piece with my label because I'm signed to Ministry of Sound, and we did this Desert Island disc piece. I don't know if you caught it on the socials. And that was basically, you're stranded on a desert island and you can only take 5 records with you. What would they be? And, there's so many answers to that question. But what I decided to do was pick 5 records that, for me, I felt had sort of a big influence as to where I'm at now. And it was mainly sort of trance and garage infused. And you hear that in my productions now. You'll hear the trance sort of chord progressions and melodies. You'll hear the garage drums. And I think that there's been a few sort of records, moments. Paffendorf, Be Cool. I don't know if you're aware of that record, but it's an old trance classic. I just remember that sort of hitting me. I was 11 years old and I was like, fucking hell, like, what is this? And I remember like listening to it differently. Like, I was counting bars, and where I heard a certain sound, I was counting the amount of bars until it would come in again. And I thought, I don't know, is that a normal way to listen to music at 11-year-old, or is that the way that a producer in the making is listening to music at that age? You know what I mean?
I think it's the latter. I know when I was 11, I was just consumed with like eating as much food as I could and like being scared of girls. But that's really, I mean, that's amazing, man. I definitely, I know personally, I wasn't exposed to electronic music that early on, but I remember, for me, I was really into kind of the main stage EDM type stuff when I was in high school. And then
I think that's a to do with where you're from, though. And that plays a big part, man.
Yeah, and it was like that was kind of what was booming in the US at the time. And I was like, give me all of the Hardwell. Like, I just need it. And then my freshman year of college, I went to Ultra in Miami, and I remember my older brother was like, I know that you're into like this main stage stuff, but like, just make sure you go see Carl Cox for 20 minutes. And I think he told me that. And the first day I went and I was like, I'll go check it out for 20 minutes. And the next thing I know, it's like, I'm still there Saturday night when he's playing again. And it's like, nothing was the same. He's just totally, it just changed it. You just mentioned it, but I just wanted to touch on the Ministry of Sound thing.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Very iconic label and obviously legendary club. How'd you connect with them, and what kind of led to you signing with them?
So I released a record, you're probably familiar with it, back in 2019 called Get Me High, which was effectively the record that really set the ball rolling within my career. And it was the track that got me exposure. And it was such a track that reached sort of all corners of the dance world, because I had everyone from, you wouldn't think a record would be able to play by so many people. So I'll give you a sort of example of the spectrum. It was like Taylor Vos and Solomon were hammering it, as well as Tiesto and Nervo. And you put those four together and it doesn't work at all. And it was just one of those records, I think, that just hit a chord with a lot of people. And so that record was first spun on Radio 1 by Annie Mac, and it picked up ridiculous support. I mean, on the first night it was played, both Annie Mac, Danny Howard and Pete Tong played it. It went straight in the Radio 1 dance chart, I think at number 2, Beatport number 1. It just, boom, like that. And it was actually signed to Steve Lawler's label. And then Ministry, I had all the labels sort of, chucking deals at me. They were all coming up north from London, which is a big deal for those Londoners to come up north. But they was coming up north, sitting in my studio, and I had all these deals sort of flying around. And I ended up signing with Ministry, and they bought the record off Steve Lawler and re-released it. And then I went into like an album development deal with them, and was 2 years on, we're still there. But what's lovely about the contract is I'm allowed to release externally a few times a year. So if you've seen on the resume now, like this year alone, I've released with Anjunadeep and Eric Prydz' Prider, and I've had a release with Afterlife, Taylor Buzz's Afterlife, both this year and last year. So, and that's what I need to do in order to really express myself as an artist, because I'm not just a Ministry of Sound artist. I've got, a lot of sound to put out, and these labels have really helped me sort of, express myself as an artist. I really feel like I'm getting my point across now. I want to do that more.
Definitely. I mean, and we'll get into this, but I think what's really cool kind of going through your career, and I'll just say, and maybe you have an opinion on it, often when I talk to artists and I ask them about, some of the first releases they had, they're often like, I don't even associate myself with that track anymore. But whether you do or not, I felt like there's been a really high quality to your music throughout, but obviously your sound has developed and changed. And, I think you definitely never pass up the opportunity to release with Eric Prydz. That's pretty special. You just mentioned it, but one of the things I, thought was really interesting was you've had a really tremendous support from BBC Radio 1 over the years, whether it's Annie Mac or Pete Tong or just anyone over there.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, watching like BBC Radio 1 is the kind of top of the mountain for, verification in the electronic music world. And so I'm just wondering for you, if you could just tell us kind of what that crew is like and, what it means to you as a DJ and producer to have that sign off from, these legends.
It means a lot because, I've never been that guy. If anything, I can be too critical on my own music. And I think that's why I was able to drive my music to the standard of where it's at. Like we touched on it, you touched on it just before you fired this question at me, but like the reason why my songs were, a decent level from the very first one was because I spent so many years in the background working with an engineer that makes music for people. I shadowed him for 3 years straight, learning everything that I could before I was even interested in putting a record out. I wanted to know how to make a record. And then, on the side of that, I was just producing all the time. I mean, I was in the studio 7 days a week. And after 3 or 4 years of watching a formula of someone that is doing this for a living, and then you're able to add your own sort of personality into a formula that works, and then you're able to start really sort of to express yourself, because that's the thing that you need to learn most as an artist. It's like, we can all sit on 6 months and do an intensive course on Ableton or Logic, but it's how you get the thoughts that are in your head out there, so you've got a point of difference. And it's when you truly master that you truly master being an artist, I believe. And I think that's what I've really been able to master the last 2 years. The first 3 or 4 years of that was just really learning what to do, how to get there, because I've been in the studio with so many incredible producers that can't get out of a 16 or 32 bar loop. And I think that when you're able to do that, then it was like, I'd done that, and then I was like, this record, I really feel I need to push it to Radio 1. And I paid my own money to put the promo into that record and invested in myself, because I thought now is the time. And I think that's the important thing, again, like timing. And then when you have their recognition, it's just everything, because then you sat there thinking of all those hours that you spent in the studio, sat by yourself thinking, is it good? Is it not? I'm like, this is good. No, maybe it's shit. Oh, no, fucking hell. Annie Mac's on this, man. This is good,
Yeah.
And you start believing. Because that's a lot of what you can do in the studio. I mean, it's a process often of elimination, and it's trusting your judgment and knowing what's right. You could smash an idea down, and if you're not in the right headspace, you could think, nah, shit, scrap it. But it might be good. So I think, I'll stay on track with the question. Like, having them, like Annie Mac, she changed my life. The support, like, she's gained the nation's trust and the industry's trust in her taste in music. So if Annie Mac's on the airwaves telling you this is a banger or this is a great record, you stand up, you listen, because you trust what she's saying. And that, the power of radio is still a thing, despite all these other outlets of music. It's still a massive thing in music. If you've got someone of her stature, or Pete Tong or Danny Howard, saying this is a big record of it, it's like, all right, I'm listening now. And yeah, it's played a huge part in my career, and along with everything else in the pot, it's just timing is the one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the radio piece is so interesting because it feels like, the media would want us to think that, like, oh, it's all about Spotify and Apple Music now. But like, yeah, at the end of the day, when BBC plays your song, like, it matters. As obviously, as you mentioned, your sound has changed a lot over the years. I'm just curious, going back to kind of some of the first music you put out, whether it was like House Party, the Talking Naughty EP, Reflections EP, kind of all the way up to Bring It Like This. Obviously a lot of these tracks were much more in the tech house realm, a little more stripped back. Kind of in the beginning of your career, who or what was inspiring your sound, and what pushed you to go down that path?
I think age had a lot to do with it. I think, you only said yourself, like, you're earlier, you're younger, you was EDM, and then as you start maturing, your musical palette starts changing. And I think that played a huge part. But what also played a huge part was I felt the skill set. I felt I had a lot more to give in the studio, and tech house wasn't stimulating anymore for me in the studio. I feel like a tech house track, I could have it wrapped up in an hour or two, and it's not challenging anymore for me. That's not to say I don't want that to come across like I'm belittling that sound at all, because it's great. But I knew that I wanted to do things more musical. I wanted something with a bit more like it's got something to say. I wanted something with a bit more emotion, and I felt like I've 2 piano lessons a week for 3 years and reading classical music and things like that. And I wanted to start actually putting this into my music. And you can't do that with tech house. The minute you start sort of exploring other sounds, you instantly fall out of that category of the genre of tech house and fall into another one. And that's where I really sort of found my sound. And as well, a dance floor moment. I was at Sonus in Barcelona, and let's just say I had one of those come up moments to a record, and I just come back and I was like, I need to make music like this now. Done. That's me. That was the message, the sign from the universe from me. Like, this is how you're going to start making music now, because I know how it made me feel on the dance floor.
Do you remember what the track was or the artist?
It was Bicep, Opus, the Opal, the Fortet remix.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's a big one.
I was just in a zone, mate. I was just absolutely blown away by this record.
That's funny. I think Bicep has that effect on a lot of people I know. I was talking to Max Chapman a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, all I do is listen to Bicep in my free time. Like, he's like, it's such beautiful music. Obviously, as you mentioned, the sound starts to change. You have a moment like that. I thought you had this kind of interesting in-between period before you got to the little bit more melodic area that you're in now, where it was like in mid 2018, you put out the Motives EP. And I think it was What Have You Done and Disco Inferno. And it was interesting because these were not necessarily, in that melodic route, like, what you put out now, but they were certainly different. It was almost like they had some of these deeper sounds.
And it's a bit experimental, would you say? Some of them was like, I was trying to break the mold, like, because tech house seems to be a formula, and if you're not careful, everything gets saturated and sounding the same. So I was trying to, stay within the tech house boundaries, but be as creative and sort of, break the rules as much as I can. But you can just hear the progression. I get more melodic as it goes on. But it was great. I mean, that one of the EPs was brilliant because it put me in touch with a friend for life. Who ended up flying out to San Diego and playing a party with him. And you might be familiar with him, Susie. He got the Hood Politics label, and great set of lads. And, everything happens for a reason, but it wasn't soon after that where I really moved on and put the Motives EP out. I think that was with Steve Lawler, and everything just started to change from there. And then I started sort of making more calculated decisions. Initially, what I wanted to do was just put out, the work rate was so high. Like, I think in 2018, I put out 48 records, and I just wanted to show that, like, look, I'm working, man. Like, so I'm just going to keep churning these out. And then eventually I got to the point where I had a little moment with that Motives EP, and then Get Me High was like the record where what started off, I think it was released January 2019, but I think it was like January 10th or something like that. And I just remember that being right. New year, new start, new slate. This is me now. And then everything came in abundance, the label, the management, and we started sort of making a bit more of a calculated decision of how we roll music out, instead of just like, boom, there's music everywhere. Oh,
No, definitely. And that was obviously still a big year for you. You did that, the Words, Stories, the Free / Love Me EP. That was really great. And then, I felt like, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are, but in 2020, obviously, you're starting down this route in 2019 and you're kind of getting into that realm. in 2020, I feel like things really started to click, and, you know, you started to really work with more high level artists and being signed to, you know, artist driven labels. This all kind of kicked off with the Haunted EP with Sasha. I'm wondering if you could just tell us a story behind that. You know, he's obviously a legend in this world, and you know, here you are in the studio with him putting out like 4 tracks. What was that about, and how'd you guys meet?
Oh man, it's still mind blowing. Like when you say that, man, it's like, oh yeah, shit. Like I put an EP out with Sasha, and it's like, it's a great message for anyone aspiring to sort of climb that ladder. Like, trust me, I'm from a village with about population of about 800 people. Wow. And you know, there's no scene around me. I've had to build the scene around me, and anything is possible, man. And look, Claire, I think you'd have to have a strong case as to why Sasha isn't in your top 10 DJs of all time. You'd have to come up with a very strong argument as to why he shouldn't deserve a place to be there. He's an iconic name, and to work with him, it was just a very sort of life and career affirming moment, because again, it's sort of like what you touched on with the whole Annie and Radio 1 thing. It's like, wow, am I really at this level where, you know, I'm worthy of working with these kind of artists? And I think it was a very natural process, and I think that's how it should be. It wasn't sort of the labels saying, we want this, or management saying this is the right thing to do. It was something that we both wanted. And when you both want it, it becomes more than, it's more of a passion project. And he's been such a big supporter of my records. Like, for instance, when I first met him, he told me how for the last sort of year or two since Get Me High had been out, Get Me High has been the sort of staple of his set. And he sort of builds his whole set around when he's going to drop that. And it was so interesting to see him that night play my record out, because I'm seeing it from a totally different light. And the way he played it and mixed it in, and he made it sound like his own record. And that was like, wow, it was the master at work. And I mean, can you even just imagine a sold out warehouse project in Manchester? I'm behind the deck, Sasha drops Get Me High, turns round, we hug each other. It was a moment. And then we said, look, we need to work on music. And that was the Saturday night. I think Monday morning, the stems were in my inbox. And we smashed it out. And like, we put the 4-track EP out, but mate, there's more music. There's more. So, you know, I don't want to dangle the carrot too much, but don't be surprised if there's a Franky Wah Sasha part 2.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was a great experience, and it's like a friend in the industry now. We talk often, and hopefully going to be doing some shows together and sort of, you know, keep putting music out together.
That's amazing. I will keep my ears to the ground on that. Everyone, you heard it here first. New Franky Wah Sasha coming soon. That's really great. I mean, you know, you get that sign off, and again, not to harp on it too much, but I think it's just part of what makes, you know, this scene so special is kind of having that support. You know, I can't really think of any other genre where a legend in the scene is going to be like playing out someone else's music like that. You know, it's so unique to electronic music, kind of the way that you guys support each other. You know, after that EP dropped, you just kind of went on a tear, and you said it, you kind of laid it out earlier, but just to run it down, I mean, you put out, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 releases with Anjunadeep, but released with them. You recently just put out with Lee Foss, and then obviously the Cristoph collab on Prida. I just wanted to touch on that really quick. You know, Prida is obviously an Eric Prydz, you know, super high level, and I think they keep everything pretty close to the vest. You know, no one really knows what's going on there until they tell you.
You can't get in. It's very sort of exclusive, isn't it? Like,
yeah. So when you guys, like, you know, you make the world you see, I like to ask this sometimes. Like, I'm curious for you, first of all, how did that come about? Did you and CJ just want to get into the studio together, or was he like, I'm having a release on Prida. Do you want to be on it? And then the second piece is, when you make a song like that, when you're in the studio, do you kind of have a feeling like, this is a big one, or are you just such a fan of your own music that, you like it all?
No, definitely. And I think it's easy to have that opinion when it's a collaborative thing, because then you're not sort of being like a bit self-indulged. But like I say, I never really have that problem anyway, because if anything, I'm almost a bit too critical of my music. But I think when it's a collaborative thing, you listen to it a lot different, because instead you listen to it as a consumer more, as opposed to picking it apart. But again, this was just a very organic thing. Like, me and Cristoph are like very in sync with very similar people. Like, it was an easy thing to do. And I think this came about because of I did an Ask Me Anything on my Instagram, and it was an opportunity for my fan base to sort of ask me anything, and it kept coming up. When are you and Cristoph going to do a collab? And I thought, fucking hell, this is about the 40th, 50th time this has been asked now. So I just reposted it and tagged Cristoph saying, what are you saying? And he was like, bro, I'm ready, let's go. And that's how it came about. And the same again, me and Cristoph, very good friends now. We've got, I don't know if I can say too much, but I know we've got, we're planning a tour together over the pond with you guys. So that's very exciting. We've got more music coming. We've got, some more, maybe you like to say universal sounding records like the World You See. It sort of ticked all the boxes. It's underground. It's got a universal twist to it. But mate, we've got some absolute disgustingly dirty warehouse, big rooms sounding records on the go as well. So yeah, it's worth getting excited about that one. And the fact Eric sort of took us under his wing. I mean, he's had Cristoph in the camp for a while, but the way he's sort of welcomed me in and supported my music has been incredible, because I'm already playing shows with him. We've just announced Cardiff. It's Eric Prid's camp, Cristoph, myself, and Youssef, and then we're playing Warehouse Project, which I think sold out in about 4 minutes. And that's Eric Artbat, Cristoph himself. So very good feeling.
Yeah, those are some monster lineups. And man, I'll say this: I would say for me, Eric Prydz is like, it's him and Carl Cox are like my 1A, 1B in terms of like all-time favorite artists. And I think for anyone who's a big fan of Eric, you automatically are a fan of Cristoph, because he just opens every single show. And so to, watch your career and see you join that family is just awesome. And when you just said you guys have some dirty, dark warehouse tracks, I'm like, that's all I need. That's really exciting, man. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm just curious, obviously, sharing the stage with some of those guys, when you see someone like a Prydz and the way that he approaches kind of the visual presentation of his show.
Yeah.
For yourself, when you think, in the future down the line, do you have kind of a vision for how you'd like to present your live show?
Absolutely. Like, I'm working on my live show at the moment. So I'm working on visual, and I'm playing live. Like, I've got my setup now. I've got the Controller S49 MIDI, the Moog Sub 37, the APC 40 launch pad, Roland drum kit. Like, I'm playing live as well as a visual show as well, that I'm launching in October. So the UK tour is what I'm sort of debuting with, and it's sold out. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm excited to develop it onto a bigger sort of scale and platform within 22. And I've got big plans for the end of this year of launching my own brand and label, which will be big, dark, dirty warehouse music. And a lot of focus will go into this. So I want to sort of, I've already got, the artists that I want aligned with my brand sort of on board with it, but I also want to develop some undiscovered talent and start building a real movement now. I've got some records coming out this year that, I don't want to sound like I'm big in my work up too much, but I'm very passionate about them, very confident in them, and I just really feel that it's going to set the stage for what I'm trying to do at the end of the year with my brand. And believe me, mate, when I say you are not ready for the next collab, you are not ready for the next collab. And I cannot say anything. My lips are sealed. But bro, just remember this conversation, and when I announce it, make sure you hit me up and just go, "That's what you was on about," and I'm like, "Yes, you are not ready."
Oh my God, dude, I'm beyond excited. That's all I can say. No, I mean, for me, that's like my favorite kind of music. So we will be eagerly awaiting that. And I mean, actually, I'm pretty sure that the company I work for in New York, Made Event, I think we're booking at least in New York. I didn't know you were a part of it with Cristoph, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to be doing that show with you guys. So we're very much looking forward to that. As you just mentioned it, as we're wrapping up here, one of the things I just always like to ask is, are there any kind of up and coming artists, that you've been listening to a lot that you just want to shout out, you think have been making awesome music?
There's two lads in particular that from my area. You can't really listen to them. They haven't got much music out, but I'm working with them in the studio to just sort of, they've actually got more experience in the industry than me. They're older than me. They've been producing longer than me, but I'm sort of really trying to help develop them. They come over to my studio now every couple of weeks, and I'm just sort of trying to get their music now to a point where it's really ready to rock and roll. And the two lads called Dan Reimer and Matt Besant, and they go by the alias of Impre. They're going to be the headline, main support act for my headline tour in the UK. And I'm excited for them because they're two very they've done the time, and I feel like it's ready to sort of try and shine a bit of a spotlight on them because they're making good music.
That's awesome.
And I've collaborated with them on a few records that might never see the light of day, but the proper sort of exclusive weapons for the set. And I'm big on that, man. I think in a day and age where music's very disposable, and apps like Shazam, it's very important to hold records back and keep exclusive. So it gives people a reason to buy that ticket and come out and watch you, because one thing's guaranteed with me and my sets is you're going to hear music that you'll never hear again. And I think that's an important point of difference to have as an artist now.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think from a fan perspective, it is like, it's obviously there's frustration with that, but I think it's the ultimate reward where when you build, your community around your music, and people are like, you play that song live and they're like, oh yeah, that was the Creamfields 2021 ID.
There you go.
And that's just what it is.
Yeah, and a big person for that who's done that throughout his career is Eric.
Yeah,
Eric, but that's how he gets a record to the level it needs to be a smash, because he might drop it at Tomorrowland, and then he's reopened the project and gone, right, I can better this. And Eric might make you wait 5 years for a record, but when you get it, you're like, yes, thank you. And I think I'm very in touch with I like to think I'm very in touch with my fan base, and I engage with them as much as I possibly can. So I've constantly got my ears to the ground, and I sort of know what they're after. And whenever I do sets, there's plenty of IDs in there, and I just gauge a sort of demand of what they're after, and then you can sort of use them as a very good sort of way of gauging what your next release should be. And it's the ultimate road test, because, I know that Eric, I think it was Pajanu, he played that, and I'm pretty sure he didn't might got this wrong, but I'm pretty certain he didn't get the reaction that he wanted. So he developed it some more, played it again, and everyone was like, what the fuck is that song? And that's the perfect way of doing it. And then look, it was a platinum record, I think. You know, it was an incredible sort of era-defying record, wasn't it? It was, and that's what he's capable of doing. And I'd like to say that his fan base play a part in that.
Yeah, I mean, that track, like, still to this day, it's funny because I think that's one of these where I have friends who don't like follow, you know, electronic music at all, or, you know, close to the level that I do. And like, they know that track and everyone loves it. And, you know, you have that crossover appeal. The last question I have for you is just, if you had the opportunity, you know, to play any club in the world and you get to decide who's on the bill with you and you can go back to back with someone, what's that bill going to look like?
That's a good question. Am I only allowed to pick one person?
No, as many as you want.
I can pick a lineup. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Which is going to be quite a big lineup, right? I'm going to Sasha first and foremost. The set that I've witnessed from him is one of the best sets that I've ever heard in my life. So he's up there. He was an icon for me growing up, and we've collaborated. So Sasha, without question. I think you've got to stick Carl Cox on there. Another big influence to me. I'd like to say Cristoph is my boy, and we have a lot of synergy in music taste and music production. We gel really well within production. Like when we produce records together, it isn't like pulling teeth. It's easy. Like we have the same musical mind. So yeah, Cristoph's on that lineup. Maceo Plex, without a shadow of a doubt. I think he's just in a league of his own. And Kolsch would have to be on there for me. Yeah, I could say a few more, but I think that's it. And I think club-wise, I'm going to say one that I haven't played, but one I'm dying to play, and it's that Warung Beach Club. I'm getting vibes off that. I don't know, it's South American club. Are you aware of it?
Is it in Ecuador?
Ecuador, right. I think it is, yeah. And I don't know what it is, but I'm getting very drawn to that club. And I just feel like I really need to play a set there. So, yeah, you've got it. Franky Wah. I'm putting myself on there, by the way. Franky Wah, Sasha, Carl Cox, Maceo Plex, Cristoph, Kolsch. We're putting Eric on there as well, Eric Fritz, and we're at Warung Beach Club. Yeah, that's it. How about you, actually? I want to spin that on you.
That's a dream. I mean, first of all, that's a dream lineup. That's going to be one hell of a ticket. I would pay a lot of money for that. Yeah. Man, it's tough. Gosh. And, you know, in terms of the venue, I wish I had more experience on this stuff. You know, I've been to Ibiza for like 36 hours. So, you know, you can imagine what my time was like there.
Where did you go when you was there?
So it's kind of a funny story, actually. My brother was doing a bit of a Euro trip with his friends, and they were there for like 2 weeks, and we're finishing in Ibiza. And he's just like, dude, my brother is like one of these finance guys, you know, he's doing pretty well for himself.
He's like Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, he's just exactly. So he's just like, he's like, I want you to come meet us in Ibiza. And greatest brother in the world. He like booked my trip. So he flew me out, and I landed at like 5 p.m. On Friday, and, you know, had left like Thursday night or whatever it is from New York. And we immediately went to, oh my God, whatever, like the super mainstream club.
Was it Ushuaia?
Yeah. So we went there first, and we saw Calvin Harris, who, you know, just always a legend. And then we went straight from there to DC-10, where Carl Cox was playing. So that was obviously a pretty awesome experience. Yeah. And then the next day, I think we were a little beat up, so we didn't really make it to a day party. And we went to Elro at Amnesia. And that was one of the craziest nights of my life. I mean, I don't know, we got there around midnight and, you know, we walked out when they opened the doors to kick everyone out at 7 a.m.
Yeah, so you're going to be for right then, man. Yes, right.
Our flight was 2 hours later. So we just went back to the hotel, grabbed our stuff and went straight to the airport.
Did you make your flight?
Yeah, well, so, you know, you take it from Ibiza to Madrid, and then we had like a 3-hour layover before coming back to the States. And I'll say this, if I wasn't with my brother, I would have been left in Madrid, because as soon as we got to Madrid and like got through security and everything and sat down, I just fell asleep. But luckily he woke me up and we got home. We got home all in one piece. But so, man, in terms of me answering that question, I got to give it to the hometown venue, which is the Brooklyn Mirage. Just absolutely special. They really do an amazing job. This is, man, it's so hard. All right, this doesn't make sense at all, but I think that what I would have to do is it'd need to be a really, really tight lineup. And we would start with Eric. Yeah. And in my mind, he's playing like 7 p.m. to like 10.
Right. Yeah.
You know, give him that sunset slot. He'll really warm it up. He'll take his time. And then I would go into Carl Cox from there. I think he would need to take like 10 to 2 a.m. And then I would let a Fisher, Chris Lake back to back close it out for some like high energy tech house.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's fitting for your, I guess, New York. That would really work, wouldn't it? Those kind of artists. Like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, we would. I mean, we had Fisher, Chris Lake do their back to back here in 2019, and it was just, it was pretty great. I mean, they have a good time. You know, he's having fun out there.
Yeah, it's fun. It's energy, isn't it? It's energy. It's fun.
Yeah, and then after party with Franky Wah, 4 a.m. to sunrise.
Come on.
Awesome, man. Well, that's all I got for you. But man, this was really, really great. I appreciate you taking the time coming on. We're looking forward to having you in New York. We'll have to grab a beer when you're here. And
definitely, mate. I love New York as well. I can't wait to get out there. So let's definitely have that beer and make sure, remember this conversation, the collab. You hit me up when I announce it. You'll be like, "Fuck, you weren't kidding." Oh
man, I'll be writing the Instagram DMs. I promise you that.
Yes.
All right, man. Awesome. You have a good day.
Cheers, brother. Thank you.